We'll make a start. Something has gone wrong with the chair, so we'll get into our karakia. So apologies, Sam for lateness, and that's it. And Tyler's joining us via Zoom, I should say. So I'll ask for someone to confirm the previous minutes. I've got the Mayor and seconded by Tim Scandrett. All those in favour? Aye, carried. And now we move to, there's no public forum, and we have, we've got the Friends of Banks Peninsula, Jan and Suki, for deputation by appointment. So we've got Jan in the room, do we? Yeah. Yes, I believe we do. Yes, yep, she's online there. So you're free, you've got 10 minutes. Your mic on, yep.
Pardon? I'll hand over to my deputy, Suki Thompson, to talk to you.
Thank you for having us today. I apologise I can't make it in person. To start with, Friends of Banks Peninsula wishes to make it clear to councillors that we are not opposed to land disposal of treated wastewater per se. What we have always been concerned about are the environmental risks of this system. We represent a wide cross-section of our community, people with deep roots within the Akaroa Harbour area and here for the long haul. We all want a system that we can have confidence in, that is going to work safely and do so long into the future without polluting the land or the harbour or stumbling from crises to crises. We stress that the public is not responsible for the long time it is taking to find and consent a solution meeting the cultural requirements of Mana Whenua to move the treatment plant from its current site and cease disposal of treated wastewater to the harbour. The reason sits squarely on two factors. Firstly, it is extremely difficult to find enough suitable land to dispose of large volumes of wastewater on steep, slip-prone Banks Peninsula. This is greatly exacerbated by the leaking pipes in Akaroa, which mean the largest volumes of wastewater occur when the land is wettest and cannot be safely irrigated. And secondly, the extent of the technical issues and errors with the data, modelling and system design that have occurred over the years. We are not responsible for the fact that the 2015 system design included absolutely no cultural treatment of the wastewater prior to the harbour disposal and hence was declined. We are not responsible for the abandoned 2016 consultation discarded when the land was found to be geotechnically unsuitable. We are not responsible for the only meter measuring the wastewater flows in Akaroa being uncalibrated and faulty, and the entire 2017 consultation process being abandoned for 3 years until valid data had been obtained. And we are not responsible for the high levels of infiltration and inflow into the Akaroa pipe network, nor the decision to abandon dealing with this before proceeding with a land-based system, and hence the complexity and expense of storing huge volumes of stormwater at the back end instead of resolving the issue up front. We are not responsible for a design that includes raw wastewater overflows every 5 years, nor for lodging the 2023 consent application claiming that the system would be wholly land-based and not making any provision for treated or raw overflows. We are not responsible for changing the scheme after that application had been lodged, such that Devotional would no longer have a separate treatment plant and its wastewater would instead be processed and stored as part of the Akaroa system. We are not responsible for the hearing panel requiring the council to provide a complete application, including Devotional and raw and treated wastewater overflows, and we are not responsible for the wastewater treatment plant site being found geotechnically unsuitable 11 years after it had been consented. Instead, we have worked and worked and worked voluntarily to understand what is proposed. We have donated our local knowledge and technical expertise, which has helped CCC and its consultants to dig more deeply into their technical assumptions. We have been the external eyes and reviewers at considerable personal and community expense. Our work has been vindicated through the hearing process to date and by the joint statements of experts participating in that process. We are deeply offended by the statement in 4.17.3 of the agenda item 16, stating that direct referral to the Environment Court would, quote, give scope for submitters to raise matters that are not founded in technical or expert assessment. Our technical work has saved CCC many millions of dollars, which would have been wasted going down the wrong track, basing the design on underestimated wastewater volumes, providing insufficient treated wastewater storage, and then having frequent overflows onto the Children's Bay Beach. So we are shocked at today's staff report recommending that the council avoid public involvement going forward. This is a very bad look. It implies the council does not have confidence that it can get the latest proposal approved by a hearing panel with a public process. The cart is being put before the horse. We were all informed at the Finance and Performance Committee meeting in April that the next step would be for a more detailed design to be presented to the full council in July. Now you're being urged to fast track or skip to the Environment Court before you have even seen the proposed new scheme. And from what we know already, that latest proposal is substantially different from anything the council has consulted about in the past. It is a significant departure from the 2023 application, even with all the modifications made to that application after it was lodged. The public have not been consulted on what is proposed, and we are very concerned that the environmental risks are even greater now with the irrigation rates doubled. Many of the expectations created by the Council's 2020 resolution are being abandoned. Non-potable reuse, reduction of I&I to 20%, avoiding archaeological and heritage sites, and providing public access. And wastewater will still enter the harbour from the overflows. So we urge you not to fall into the trap of a get Brexit done mentality. This is a hugely expensive project for Christchurch City Council, and our beautiful Akara Harbour, your blue stadium, is at risk if it goes wrong in future. The public is not your enemy in finding a solution. We are part of your team. Public scrutiny is not a nuisance. It has provided and will continue to provide vital checks and balances. We therefore ask you to reject both of the options presented in the staff report. Fast tracking cuts out the public entirely. Escalating to the Environment Court cuts out the public because of the prohibitive expense. Please opt for continuing with the current hearing process. Present your revised and new applications to the hearing panel that is already knowledgeable and up to speed with this project. We submit that this is the most efficient and publicly defensible course. Cutting the public from further involvement will be perceived as an embarrassing and authoritarian disgrace. Thank you. We will take questions now.
Thank you. You've made yourself incredibly clear. There's a couple minutes for questions. Are there any questions? No? Jan, anything to add?
I'll just add at the end, I just want to say, why assume public opposition here? If there was assurance of a site of a high standard treatment system, and you've got scope for that if you move to a larger site, and if I&I was reduced, and if there was a safe overflow mechanism, and if there are rigorous and publicly accessible monitoring conditions, you might take the community along with you.
Understood. Thank you again both for joining us. I know you've spent a lot of time working on this issue for many years. One quick question from Yanni.
Hi Jen, thanks for coming in. Just to be clear, are you supporting direct referral to the Environment Court rather than the fast track? Or are you just supporting the standard RMA?
Standard RMA.
No, I mean,
pathway?
The public's already contributed over $100,000 to this process. And the Environment Court, we have a good process in place, we believe, with the hearing panel and the resource consort system. This is not this is not a sign of the resource consent process failing. It's actually been working
Right, okay.
for us all. So, no, we don't support direct referral to the Environment Court.
Okay.
Thank you. So next up, we've got Bruce and Lee. Bruce and Lee have sent through something written that is available digitally on the Big Tin Can. So if you wanted to access that, you can. Bruce and Lee, take it away.
It's Bruce here. Basically, we think that the council proposal to fast track the wastewater consent process to avoid public consultation should be turned down. At the very least, this application for fast tracking should not be considered until you're fully aware of the content and extent of the consent applications to be made by the council. We understand this will not be until February 2027. Your officers have suggested that there is some opposition in the Akaroa community to the land-based scheme. This is a euphemism. There is a lot of opposition. You will recall that 94% of submitters to the 2023 consent hearing were opposed to the land-based scheme. This has not changed. Most of the community do not want a land-based scheme. They do not want the construction disruption. They do not want Children's Bay to be spoiled. They don't want to be lumbered with a system with numerous ongoing problems. To stop the public from being heard by fast-tracking the consent is cynical, to say the least. The council is seriously out of step with the community, we would argue. The council has been unsuccessful in both its applications for consent to date, and public opposition has continued to grow. In the most recent hearings, commissioners clearly weren't impressed as it dragged on and finally sent a list of 54 questions to the applicant on the 19th of February last year. These material questions remain unanswered, and this begs the question, how would a fast-track process deal with them? Many of these questions arose from public submissions which were funded by the community. As Suki has pointed out, $120,000 was raised in this process. In Council's update to Environment Canterbury, Commissioners on the 4th of May 2026, the Council's counsel, Mr. Pizzi, has indicated there will be numerous new consent applications and a lot of work done to complete the design. For example, his submission to the Environment Canterbury states, all of the land-based elements of the Council's proposed scheme need to be worked out collectively and holistically across a range of considerations, including engineering, cost, geotechnical, soil capacity, ecological effects, and mana whenua values. And he went on to say in the same submission, numerous varied and new consent applications will follow. The Council will not be ready to submit this further information until February 2027. Costs since 2020 have increased by more than 300%, as you're aware, and it looks to us as if this trend is set to continue. This explosion of costs is unprecedented, even considering New Zealand's appalling infrastructure blowout record. Given the early design stage, there will be ongoing cost blowouts. It already looks to cost at least $200,000 per rateable property. The terminal pump station is sited in the main recreational area of Akaroa and is on a compromised foundation consisting of uncompacted fill and an old rubbish dump which will require costly foundations. The treatment plant has been sited on an active slip zone to date. It will have to be moved, but this is yet to be assessed. Discharges into Children's Bay need to be reanalysed for frequency and impact on the environment. This will likely involve a new pipe going further into the inner harbour with additional costs. And we understand that Wakakatahi require the full width of the road to be resealed from the treatment plant to Robinson's Bay, and I do not believe this has been allowed in the current estimates. The council staff have optimistically identified some potential cost savings, but these rely on increased environmental risk by reducing storage, reducing the area to be irrigated, and increasing irrigation flows per hectare by 100%, as well as increasing discharges into the prime recreational bay in Akaroa. These environmental issues need further investigation and will likely result in costly mitigations. And I note that the annual maintenance costs, in our opinion, look very optimistic. It's hard to believe that this system that's being implemented would be able to be maintained on an annual basis for the figures that are in the council papers. In engineering terms, we would say the engineering is not yet at concept design stage. There is a lot of questions to make, a lot of decisions to make, and there are many opportunities for added cost. And subsequently, we have now received the underlying costing information from the council for the project that was presented in April. It's clear that the council's costs cannot be relied on. As an example, we have reviewed the cost for the ocean outfall alternative, which we have supported. This review has identified the following. The costs for the devotional to terminal pump station link have been added twice. This is a $12 million mistake. The costs for the design have effectively been added twice. There is a 50% contingency added to it when alternative schemes only had a 30% contingency. Arguably, the ocean outfall is less risky, we would argue, than the half-baked scheme that's been presented. Adding a second short outfall pipe is clearly not necessary, and that was included in the cost for the ocean outfall, having a second outfall pipe. And in addition, the council, for some reason, added another 4 kilometres of outfall pipe.
Hey, now, Bruce, just so you know, there's 4 minutes left for you both. So I'm just letting you know.
That's right. If these costs are eliminated, the ocean outfall is around $37 million cheaper, and it would be $10 million cheaper than the land-based scheme. There's been no attempt to optimise the ocean outfall. And it was the costs were used as a way of eliminating the ocean outfall from the shortlist project, so it was never debated at this committee. These cost mistakes show that the council cannot be relied on for budget estimates, as if the 300% blowout wasn't enough evidence. Our argument is that the council has shown, based on evidence of this proposed scheme to date, that it is not credible and cannot be relied on to design, estimate and implement this wastewater project properly. It has made one mistake after another, and it hasn't finished yet. It needs proper oversight and public confidence. A fast-track consent process will not deliver this. The Akaroa community are very opposed to the land-based scheme, and to ignore this lack of support would be a tragic mistake for the council and the community. The council are pushing through a fraught scheme despite community opposition, and there will be no consultation allowed and no appeal. It is effectively saying, eat that, Akaroa. Thank you. Appreciate the time you've been able to give us.
Thank you, Bruce. Lee, are you good to go?
Yes, thank you, councillors. Just very briefly, appreciate the opportunity to present today. You've heard the submission, which obviously I support in full. You've got a community to deal with here. We've had escalation in costs. There is no confidence in the fact that this new amended scheme will cost $140 million without any detailed design and any other infrastructure considerations that need to be considered and won't be available till February. It is absolutely premature to put this through a fast-track process. It is an insult to the community. It should not be dealing with it now. It needs to be deferred at the very least until we know exactly what this new proposal is. We're back to where we were in 2020. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Lee and Bruce. Very, very clear. Does anyone have any questions? No? Great. Hey, thank you both for your time, and we'll obviously deal with this paper later in the morning. Much appreciated. Okay. And I should just note too the Mayor's conflict on this item when we get to it later on. So David, we don't have any petitions? No. So that brings us to our first report for Peter Ryan. Do you want to come up to the table, Peter, please, for item 7?
Good morning, everyone. As you know, this is the vital few performance goals for the organisation, supported by the finance and PMO reports. Should be a fairly short briefing because their results are very consistent with recent months. I'll just quickly go through the table on the second page, which is a summary. So community levels of service are well above target and still at record levels. So they're the services that we deliver directly to the community. Management levels of service are also very high and above target, as is the resident survey result for the year. Capital projects delivery complete milestones, so that's actual delivery rather than spend, is also quite high at about 91%. Non-watch list is also on target. Feeding the capital program, so in other words, planning ahead for future years. 27 year, we have hit our goal of being well planned out. 28, 29 is quite far away. We're a little bit shorter there, but PMO are working on that amber. It may come right for year end. Value for money, council is fine overall. Budget, absolutely fine overall. Of the 39 activities, 35 are on budget. Of the 4 that are not, only 1 is material, and that is water supply. And there's detail of that set out in the finance report. In terms of capital program spend, that's about 10%, 11% underspent, which fits with the 90% milestone delivery. So that makes sense. So overall, a very good year. I should mention that even though we tumble through those figures quite quickly, that's hundreds of services delivered by thousands of people and thousands of projects and budgets. So it is a very solid year, and that's about where I would expect we will finish at year end.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter. Does anyone have any questions on this report? Yanni, and Jake's happy to move it, and Mark's happy to second it. But Yanni, you got a question?
Yeah, thanks. So I'll start with the transport first, page 24. The measure of success is to reduce the number of death and serious injury crashes on the local road network, and it gives us a comment around the remedial action. Continue to deliver intervention programs to improve safety outcomes on the network. I'm just trying to understand, in terms of our remedial action to address those targets, do we have a list of the top intersections in terms of crashes? Because I'm just mindful of the media coverage of the Gasson Byron Street intersection, where people, I think it was labelled the most crashes in the South Island, or there was, it was something that people were incredibly concerned about. So I'm just trying to understand how we look at where the crashes are happening and where the greatest risk is, and then how that feeds into actually addressing the problem, given the frustration that people have had about that one being identified, but no work having been done in a timely manner.
Yep. Through the chair, we do have that information, and we are looking to bring you a briefing paper on how we prioritise our road safety programmes very soon, which will have all that information and explanations within it.
But the question is, have we been doing that in the past?
Yes, we have been.
Yeah. Right.
So with that specific intersection, there's multiple ways of looking at data. If you look purely at DSIs over the last 5 years, I think there's been 4 DSIs there. And in the media, it states that intersection has the highest DSI rate in Christchurch. But there's lots of other intersections which might have 1 or 2 less DSIs, but significantly higher number of other crashes. Okay. And when you factor those in and weight them accordingly, unfortunately that Madras or that Gasson Byron intersection isn't at the top of our current list. Right. But we will be doing some works there to address the concerns.
Okay. Thank you. And then, so to slightly, page 22, so it's not transport related, this is water related. So
thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
We have a number particularly in the water supply. Page 20, increased water supply, asset management maturity. We've got the same thing for wastewater as well. It just references that the target is to increase wastewater asset management maturity towards agreed appropriate level. It says we said the target was not met during FY25. Results will be updated once the AMMA results are released. And then it just says continue working on the Water Service Delivery Improvement Plan, actions that will impact future AMA scores, asset management maturity assessment scores. Can we please be given a copy of the asset management report, even if it's in draft, so we can understand what it's saying. Can we?
Okay, hang on. I think David can probably answer that around the asset management report and when that's coming to council.
And can we? Well, can we also be told what the actual target is versus what the results are?
Yep.
So we know what the
two
trends are?
questions. So let's deal with David's one first, and then we'll get the water team back.
Yeah, sure. As previously stated, Councillor, we're bringing the AMA to this committee next month. So we've been working through with our external consultants. This is a 3-yearly. We do an AMA every 3 years. It's an internal document. It looks at all of our internal processes and the way we manage our assets, and gives us a score based on internationally recognised framework. So we'll be bringing that to this committee at the end of June.
I guess what concerns me is that will be the end of the financial year. We've just done the budget. We're in the middle of the long-term plan. But if we don't know what that report is saying, how do we know how we're making good investment decisions based on asset management maturity that we're failing to meet the targets on?
I think you're misunderstanding what the report actually is and what an asset maturity assessment actually does. It looks at our internal processes, the way that we set ourselves up to manage our assets. The asset management plans, the strategic asset management plan, and the infrastructure strategy provide the strategic direction for managing our assets, and the way our asset managers make those decisions and present those to you for decision. Excuse me.
Great. Okay. Do you want to go back to your water question, Yanni, or you got more on this? Because knowing it will come next month, we can probably leave those questions till then. So
yeah, so is there anything that we can get given ahead of that meeting, so that we can understand if there's any budget implications resulting from that report? I know
there aren't any budget implications coming from that report, so I'm not sure what decision you're thinking you need that information for.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Previously we've been told, for example, that the identified issues from 2017, 2018, 2020.
Okay, can we deal with this?
Not been addressed.
I think David's been very clear around the purpose of the report and when it's coming to us, which will be a chance for you to answer the specific, really detailed questions on this. So let's move to your water question. Thank you, David. If we get the water team back up around was it around the measuring stuff, Yanni?
Well, we're told that we're not meeting the target.
Yeah, no. Can you?
Yep.
So we don't need the preamble. Just the question would be quite useful.
Right.
So what's your question?
Yeah. What are our results against our target, and what's the trend been
in terms of
meeting, working towards increasing wastewater asset management maturity towards agreed appropriate level? Target is greater than 77%. That's both for wastewater and for water supply.
Brent's flagging here. He's got a answer.
Councillor, I think when we come back with that report with David in June, I think we can, if it's trend information that you're after, I think we can look at bringing that back then. But if there's any specific questions, if you could send those through to make sure that we cover everything.
Yep. Excellent.
So sorry, just to be clear, you know the target wasn't met, but you're not going to tell us what the result was until the EMA reports are released, even though in our performance report it's been made clear that we're not meeting the target, but we're not going to be told by how much.
Just so I'm clear, man, are you on page 22?
22.
22.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, the result is not met because the last year wasn't met. So when the last year is not met and we don't have the results yet, we need to keep the same score.
I'm finding this really. I think when we get information like this, it's really hard to know what it means because it's just not. It's not clear. I'll give you another example. For example, on the same page above this, there's talk that we're orange for the percentage of wastewater mains with high or very high consequences of failure, inspectors scheduled in their lifespan. And then it talks about investigating provision of additional funding for increasing the amount of CCTV to be carried out within the existing contract.
Yep.
And it's got a budget figure as well, but we're not being asked to approve that budget figure.
But unless I'm forgetting something, my understanding is we've traversed this with Gavin, and Gavin said he'd be doing it within the Three Waters budget, because we've asked this question before.
Well, then shouldn't the remedial action say we've allocated the funding to do the work, and this is how we're going to get back on track? Not we're investigating provision of additional funding.
Yanni, if you'd like to write the reports, there is a way to do that, and you go through the HR department. So let's.
Sorry. So
let's
can I
move
just
on.
be clear then?
Let's move on. It's been asked and answered.
The money has been allocated for that.
We have
additional?
been told that 3 times in previous meetings. Yep.
Well,
Okay. Great. Thank you for that. So that's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Now we'll just move the late. So just note the apologies for lateness and Tyler on Teams, and Jake and I will just move and second that. No, it's all good. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great. Thank you. Excellent. Do we want to come up now for finance, please, Mitch?
Good morning, councillors. So this report covers our updated year-end projection as at the end of April. We were forecasting back in March a $44.4 million surplus. Now at the end of April, we're forecasting at year-end to be delivering a forecast cash operating surplus of $46.2 million, so a $1.8 million improvement. That's primarily come out of minor savings in personnel costs and some parks commercial revenues. On the weather event back in February, we currently have $3.5 million built into our forecast, of which $2.5 million has been spent to date. That primarily relates to the removal of contaminated material on Banks Peninsula. And in regards to the increase in fuel costs for the ongoing Middle Eastern conflict, we have updated our forecast to reflect the higher costs of procuring petrol and diesel for our vehicles and immediate contracts. However, what we haven't built in at this stage is any escalation for our contracts, as most of that will fall into next financial year. And on the capital front, we are currently, it's fairly steady at the moment. We're projecting a $75 million underspend, which Paul's report covers more on.
Great. Okay. Does anyone have any questions on this? Phil's happy to move it. Victoria's happy to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Good report. Thanks, Mitch. Okay, Paul, do you want to come up and talk us through the capital program, please?
Morning, everyone. Just a couple of points to make. The forecast for the core capital program still sits at $500 million, which is 89% of the budget spend. The spend to date is $394, so we've spent 78% of what we are currently forecasting. And as Peter alluded to in his report, the milestones are sitting at just around 90%, so pretty similar in terms of spend and project delivery complete. Just note that a number of projects are starting to signal risk around increasing costs and time, in relation to the Middle East conflict. So we will continue to monitor that, but a lot of those haven't materialised yet. They're just signalling as a risk and managing it with the contractors to see where that lands. And just one other point, there was an unexplained fire at Cunningham House last month, which is going to have a significant impact on that project. And so currently it's on hold until we can get through the assessment and understand what the damage was. Other than that, happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you for that, Paul. So, yeah, Celeste?
Thank you. Just looking at the Pages Road Bridge project, is that maybe for Stephen or Jacob? Sorry. Yeah. Oh, I was just asking about the Pages Road Bridge project on page 80. So just referencing back to your comment around escalation of costs, I know we're still working through some of the early sort of tender stages and things. Are we building in the risk from that as part of the kind of overall project in terms of understanding whether we should look at things like fast track?
I think it's probably more a cost rather than anything else at risk. We've got a contingency on it that hasn't been changed at this stage. We're working through that procurement. We'll see how that comes out the other end of it, I think, before we start making changes to budgets.
Okay. And if there was to be a significant, because we're looking at other projects where we're already anticipating a cost increase, such as the Ikaroa wastewater plan, will we be looking at a similar point where we'll perhaps move to fast track for this one to avoid the similar risks with cost escalation? So if we're looking ahead to this project, aware that there is likely to be some cost escalation, should we also be looking at fast track as part of that risk mitigation for this?
We can look at fast track, but there's at the moment our understanding is that there's probably no value in doing it. There's probably quite a large cost to go for fast track. There's quite a significant cost involved. I can't remember the number off my head, but it's at least $250,000 to put in the application for it. So you've got to be able to get effectively that kind of return to be worth it. Without knowing what level of consenting risk we've got, because we don't have a design yet, we don't think it's worth putting it in yet. So we will hold our fire, as it were. I'm not ruling it out, but it's certainly not something that's top of mind at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, good question. That was good. Any other questions on the capital? Yanni?
Yeah, thank you. Is there any update on discussions with KiwiRail around the cost of delays or the increased costs of projects? Is there any sort of global, high-level information you can give us about what's happening in that space, given that that's been one of the kind of key risks that we've had for a number of, months, years? Just be interested to know if there's been any progress on getting any cut through on any of those.
So there are discussions between KiwiRail and road controlling authorities, of which we're actively involved in, around the standards for level crossings and level crossing upgrades. So it's a work in progress at the moment.
Sorry, this is for core capital stuff, so just overarching. Page 65. So just looking at the forecast there, so 507, right? Yep, and we're tracking to shade under 400 at the moment. So in the final 2 months, we'd have to drastically exceed our average output, and have the biggest month of the year in June, which is not abnormal, but just some comments there. Like, are we confident that we can hit that 500 million, or are we sort of tracking a little bit below 500?
We're still comfortable that 500 is where we're tracking. The last 2 months, we actually have 3 months from an accounting point of view, even though there's 2 calendar months, because effectively the actual spend is a month in arrears generally, but from an accounting rules point of view, we have to bring June costs into June, which would ordinarily fall in July, in terms of when claims come through and get paid. So yeah, June is always a very big month.
Right, okay, and we'll fall 60 odd short of budget, and surpluses are a big talking point at the moment. We'll have a surplus there of about 60 million. Is that what we're looking at?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. If we spend the 500, yes.
Capital surplus, so not operational.
Surplus,
Yeah.
Capital.
Yeah. Cool, Yanni.
Just looking at the Fitzgerald Ave Brick Barrel Mains renewal, we're obviously going to go. It's anticipated tendering of the project will occur late in May. I'm just wondering if that project has gone out for tender, and if we've got a date or a time frame for the construction starting. Related to that, I would be keen to understand how we're dealing with the traffic management issues associated with the new stadium and the surrounding road closures, because it seems to me that this has a potential to have quite a high impact.
I think Brent's got a...
Council, I'll have to bring the detail back to you. I don't have that with me at the moment, but we can certainly get that circulated.
Right, I think that would be helpful. Yeah, thank you. Cool.
Great, I think we're all there. Phil, yep.
Yeah, I've just got one question on page 73. It's the Lincoln Road passenger transport improvements, which is good. I know the tender's been let and it's very good. I'm still very keen to see, because I look at the bit that the government's just done in Horsell Road, And in the middle of the road, they've just got the narrowest median that they can possibly have. And I know our one has got a wider median with a whole lot of trees in it. Is there any opportunity to talk to the contractor? I'm not saying take the trees out, put the trees in the booms, but have it. If we put the trees in the middle of the road, we're going to need traffic management and all sorts of things when we start doing maintenance and looking after them. Is there any opportunity to talk to the contractor about changing that and still having the same amount of trees but put them in the berm so it makes the road more in line with what the government have done out in Horsell Road? Question. Please. Or is it too late? I shouldn't have said that bit because that's what he'll say.
So, through the chair, nothing's too late until it's built, but
I like yes, man.
But it would need to go through a substantial process because we'd probably need to reconsult and re-go through the approvals process to make those changes. Yes.
So,
you're effectively changing the road layout, and that would need reapproval.
Okay, so in other words, if we had to go through all that consultation rubbish again, it'd be a waste of time. But all I'm trying to do is make it easier for us to not have ongoing maintenance with trees and grass. Still have the trees on the side of the road, so you've still got the boulevard, but it's almost in a too hard basket, would you say?
We did some work on this a few months ago, and I genuinely can't remember off the top of my head what the answer is. Can I dig that out and we'll send it through again?
No worries.
Because it was 3 or 4 months ago, and I'm sorry, I just can't remember what the conclusion was.
Okay. Yanni.
Sorry, just a high-level question, because you've kind of drawn our attention to a number of these projects and now signalling impact from the possible impact on from the Middle East conflict. Like, is there a point in time where we're going to get a sense of what those collective impacts will be, or is it just going to be for every project we're just going to get told at some point?
Well, yes, we'll have to negotiate with the contractors in each instance on what the outcome will be, and it will be project by project. And depending on whether that project has enough budget, it may have enough contingency to cover it as it stands. So would not need a change request or anything else. It depends on the nature of each project, really.
Right. Okay.
So it's basically. Yeah. You're effectively saying, Paul, that it's just a part of our normal process that we just work through as the project managers are managing the jobs.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if capital changes are required, that'll come through in our normal planning.
Yeah, and our normal change request process if they have to actually request more money.
Yep.
Right.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool. You good, Yanni? Yep.
Yeah. I mean, obviously just concerned at the level of financial risk around that and obviously delays, but I'm just wondering if there's anything else we should be looking at a governance level to try and mitigate the impact of what might happen.
Yeah, I think it's improved dramatically in terms of that visibility of the capital changes report, and anything that exceeds that comes to council, but there's sort of a workable delegation so that the team can carry on as well. And then, I mean, I think in Yanni, you've been really, really good in this in terms of the, as we work through the LTP, actually getting that spelt out what's changing in the capital program, so we're really clear on that. So no, really, really good point. Okay, so David's happy to move it. Oh, you got a question? Yep, and then you're happy to move it, and then Kelly's going to second it and ask his question.
Yeah, happy to move it. But question first. Page 79, major cycleway. So probably a transport question. At the public meeting with the contractor a couple of weekends ago, they indicated that their work program, they could do double shifts to make the project faster. Are we able to make sure that we get all of our roadworks done in double shifts to expedite these and have less impact for our residents?
It's certainly something we can look at on different projects. It has a cost associated with it. It also means, obviously, longer shifts means you're working earlier in the morning, later in the evening. So some residents don't like it.
Hang on, Dave.
So it's something you've got to work through on a project by project basis. That's where it is.
Okay, thank you for that. I just take heart that the contractor said at the public meeting, where the deputy mayor was present as well, that there was no penalty for the council and that it would be advantageous to the residents.
Cool. Good point. Kelly.
Just following on from what you said, Paul, about potential cost escalations, I just wonder if you could explain to those of us that don't know, how rigorously do you check the validity of those claims that a contractor might have for increased costs?
Each claim that comes in is validated by someone, a cost engineer. So they're looking at it on every single claim, and they sign it off.
Thank you.
And I've got Phil, and then we'll...
Right, now we're on to page what's that say? 77. The Northwest Arc one. Now, this last little bit that's going... The photo there that is on Aorangi Road, which is very lovely, but it's the most expensive way to build a cycleway I've ever seen in my life. What we did yesterday, I think it was Tyler's suggestion that we look at bringing cycleways, doing them as cheap as we possibly can. Is the next bit from Aorangi Road down Matson's Ave going to be the same as that with extra curbs in the road and all that sort of thing? And is it because it's already been designed and let, and that means we'd have to go out for consultation as well? Or can we talk to the contractor and say, can we make this part of it cheaper and go a lot further for the amount of cost? Or is it all too late for that? Thank you, Stephen. Because it's not built yet.
Through the chair, and apologies, Mr. Mayor, it'd be the same answer to your previous question around, yes, it's not built, but if you did want to make those changes, it would have to go through the approval process again.
Okay, so going forward, when the next one comes up, it will be looked at in a totally different way and a cheaper way of doing it, so we don't end up with this problem again.
We will be looking at different options for any other cycleway that we do, yes.
And there's also a briefing coming to you in, I think, early July about the section from Island Road to Brookside Terrace with some options there. So that one's certainly at a stage where we can change it quite significantly if we want.
Okay, thank you.
Is that the Aorangi Road stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's come through the com board, so that's cool. Yep. Okay, Yanni. Is it transport?
It's just the same. It's on that same project. Sorry.
Call it a hunch.
Like I really appreciate the photos, but I am looking at the width of the cycleway and then the width of the footpath, particularly where you've got like power poles in the middle of the footpath where people would be walking with prams, elderly people, mobility scooters. Is there any minimum standards that we have around, the width of a footpath on these projects? It looks like really actually quite narrow. And I'm just trying to understand if that was just a design fault or if there's standards that kind of ensure that there's a minimum degree of access for people who are not on the cycleway.
So through the chair, there are minimum standards for footpaths and for footpaths around obstructions. I can't comment on that location specifically, but we'll certainly go out and have a look at it because looking at that photo, it does look quite narrow. So we'll have a look at that.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
And we've got one more from Phil, and then we're going to move on.
This is on page 83.
Hang on, guys, can we just...
I'm sorry, I've just clicked on, my eyes aren't working too good. Is South Brighton, South Shore Estuary Edge stuff, has that got out for tender yet? Yeah, run away now, Stephen, while you can.
I'm not sure if it's released yet or not. They were doing the sort of final work through of quite a lot of consent conditions. I'll have to come back to you on that.
Okay, so we've finally broken the shackles of the ECAN consent hold-up.
Yes, we're beyond that point, but working through quite a few conditions. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just let me know when the tender's going out, if you wouldn't mind, please. Thank you.
Okay, so that's moved and seconded. All in favour? Aye. Against? That's carried. Great. Okay, do you want to do the next one, which is just normally in PX, but because there's nothing?
Yes. Yeah, there's nothing over 500,000 this month, so therefore it's in the public domain, and it's just the report for review and accept.
Melly's happy to move it. Tim's happy to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great, thank you. Digital, item 11.
Very good morning, councillors. Well, I'm really pleased to be presenting our inaugural update to the councillors today. So, yep, it's interesting, and I'm quite excited to share some of the things that we've achieved. And hopefully they will resonate. So, I'll begin with, so if you can go to the next slide, please. I'll begin with just anchoring the entire discussion on the organization's digital strategy. This was endorsed and approved back in 2018. It was a 10-year time horizon, and it had a lot of aspirations captured into it in terms of how we would like to engage with our constituents, our citizens, in more digital with more digital capability, enabling them to interact with the council in a more at their own convenience, at their own time, in a more frictionless manner, which is kind of the way the whole world is operating today if you look at your own personal experiences in your private lives in terms of the things you deal with. And what I'm reporting today is where are we at in against that strategy that was written in 2018. And I also want to flag right now that we are going to be reviewing the strategy because it's up to 2028. But that is certainly on our plan. But right now, the strategy is very relevant. All the principles that were encapsulated in there are driving and guiding the North Star for where we want to go with digital capabilities. Cool. Next one. So this one is just a snapshot, and it is pretty much supporting a lot of the service units, be it libraries, rec and sports, consenting compliance, etc. But it is showing you the volume of interactions or touch points that we have in terms of supporting the things that the citizens are interested in. The one that is very specific to what we do is the cybersecurity. There, what I'm emphasizing is that we are in a world where cybersecurity is changing at a rapid pace. People are finding more clever ways to go and breach and steal data, use it for different purposes, either to sell it in the black market or even look at, asking for money if they have been able to breach and lock your computers and stuff like that. So that is quite an important capability that we are constantly watering and feeding to make sure that the citizens' data and the council is kept safe and secure. Next one. So if we just look at this picture, this is the digital strategy for the council. I would just like to point out the three key pillars in here. The citizen focus, which is how are we making it easier for the citizens to interact with us. Enabling our people, which is the one on the bottom right. That is about how are we enabling our staff to be able to operate more efficiently so they can have the data and information on their fingertips to be able to make decisions in a more time-effective and also good decisions because the data quality is good. And the third one is delivering value. So all the projects and programs that we run are anchored across these three key pillars that are coming out of the organization's strategy. So I think I've kind of covered that. So citizen focus is around citizens, people, and delivering value. Over the last 5 years, this is giving you a rundown of the types of projects that we have done in each of those categories. I don't intend to go through each and every one of them, but if there's anything that jumps out that you would like to ask me questions on, I'm more than happy to answer them. Should I carry on? Yeah. So one of the things that we have achieved more recently is moving to the cloud. Now, in 2010, this is, of course, a while back, there was a very conscious move that was done to move most of the infrastructure that the council had, the digital infrastructure, onto private cloud. So this is where you've got providers like Spark or CCL back in the day providing end-to-end services for hosting your servers and maintaining and managing them. That was more of a commercial construct rather than really as a service consumption, but it was certainly a step in the right direction. What we have been able to do more recently with the cloud transformation program in the last 18 months is, and I think the game changer there has been the opening of the Microsoft Azure North data center. What that has done is really broken the back of the data sovereignty issues that we would have encountered had we been looking at moving it to a Sydney or Singapore-based point of presence. Having that established in Auckland, it certainly became an accelerator, and we were one of the first public sector organizations to harness that in partnership with Spark and Microsoft, and we have moved most of our workloads now onto Azure North. And now we are in the process of transforming to make sure how do we start saving money now that we are on a pure public cloud setting, because that is totally driven by consumption. So if you start consuming more, you pay more. But if you drop your consumption, you start paying less. Whereas in the old construct, regardless of your consumption, you were paying a flat fee because it was based on, well, you bought 10 servers, just as an example. That is the price for it. We'll spread it over a 3-year deal, so that is what you'll be paying on a monthly basis. So that is the fundamental difference that we have done. Now, what this has also brought to our sort of remit is the value proposition of those data centers is very much driven around the climate and resilience imperatives that the whole world and us as part of it are trying to pursue. So utilizing a capability that Microsoft has provided that gives us that thing is certainly also giving us some kudos that we are now supporting initiatives that are supporting climate change and other challenges that the world is facing. Just touching on some of the key risks. I mean, cybersecurity, I touched on that a bit. So obviously that is going to be top for us to make sure that we are staying on top of it. We are constantly looking at the threat landscape and making sure that our capabilities are geared up to support that, and we are working with our vendor partners and the security operations centers that we consume from Spark to make sure that we are doing the right things to keep the council safe. External shocks, I mean, this is just one of those contextual things that we just need to be aware of, and some of this has recently hit us with some of the challenges you must have heard about, where due to the shortage of some of the key materials that are used for producing, your memory disks and your, computer chips and other parts, the cost of some of these devices has gone through the roof in terms of 40% more than what they were. And I think I'll talk about that in one of the projects where we took a proactive step to try and protect that exposure to the council by procuring some of those things well in advance and predicting us for, probably next 2-3 years so we won't be hit by that shock. But that is certainly an issue that is out of our control, but we just need to monitor that and see what best we can do. Third one is information management, and that touches on the point I was making around data. Data and information is the lifeblood of every organization. The better the quality, the better the reliability of the data, the better the decision making. So that is again a risk that we're constantly managing by making sure we are lifting the capabilities around how we manage information in the council, putting in better practices and controls, education, and all those things that is coming out of the digital unit. Look, we are all going to be always in a constrained environment, right? So affordability is again one of those things where we have to constantly think about how can we achieve the best outcome for the money we have. And that means at times, we'll need to sit there and make some hard calls around how do we move forward. But that is an ongoing risk that we need to sort of keep our eyes on to be able to make sure that our solutions are not just suiting for today, but also supporting tomorrow. Regulatory reform and service standards. So again, a very contextual element where things get moved from the center or there are other regulatory changes that take place, and we need to act on that in a timely fashion to support the council in whatever way, shape, or form we can from a digital perspective to help meet those needs and stay compliant. And the last but not least is technology. So all the things that I've just mentioned around moving to the cloud, they have all been geared towards trying to immunize, if I can use that word, the platforms and the technology from being obsolete. So we have not broken the back of everything yet, but if I recall the conversation I had with you when I had joined the council in 2023, we had servers running our softwares that were from the 2000s. Well, thank God, they're gone now, right? But we still have some from 2013 and from 2019 that need to be dealt with. So that's kind of the constant things we need to keep doing. And what is associated with those hardwares is the software that runs on it. So if you have an old hardware, sometimes your software won't run it. That means you are running an old version. That means you have got security risks and vulnerabilities that you can't close. So I think you can see how all of these things are so connected and intertwined that we need to stay on top of this on a regular basis. Now some fun stuff around the delivery. So if you look at the first one, the digital citizen experience, all the project details are there in the report, but I'll just touch on some key ones here. So in the report, we've said that this was going to go live in May. Well, I'm very happy to report that we have successfully gone live with the digital citizen experience as of this week, Monday 25th. It was after a 48-hour outage window we had where there were a lot of activities the team did overnight pretty much, and we have gone live with absolutely zero issues. And what we have noticed since it has gone live is some positive feedback has already started rolling in. This is only day 3, so it's early days, a lot of water to go under the bridge. But what the team has reported back is that the activity on the online stuff has actually gone up 40% to what they would normally see in a given week. So I think people are picking up the fact that there are new services, and we have not even advertised it, by the way, because this was a soft launch. So I think through word of mouth and people encountering these services, you are seeing that people are beginning to say, oh, wow. One of the feedback that I can read that out pretty much as I've received it, but in a nutshell, it says, really pleased to see this, and I'm really looking forward to what more you're going to offer on this platform. So that's one good thing there. So the card compliance one is another important one, because there is a lot hanging on that to be successful, for us to be able to maintain the interactions we have with the bank, the credit cards and all of that. So obviously we are supporting our finance colleagues there from a digital perspective to make sure that the controls in place and all are appropriate. And we've got an external party, Confide, that is going to be doing a dry run or a mock assessment to make sure that we can meet the needs that are required from a PCI DSS perspective, so we can maintain our relationship with the banks and continue business as usual without any disruptions. The supporting vertical capital, this is where we are supporting a lot of the projects that are run from a digital capability, Wi-Fi, networks, devices, etc. So again, they are quite significant deliveries that we have achieved as a council, and I'm really pleased that we have played our role to make sure they are successful. Let's look at the digital active finances, and I've got my colleague Vaughan here, who would be the expert to talk to it than me.
Cool. So one of the big changes that we've experienced in FY26 is we transitioned from a capital funding model to an operating funding model, which has largely gone through seamlessly, mainly just because the only change was how we were funding digital. So the actual delivery overall has remained the same, and you can see that in the so it's just in the 25 to 26 years, just the blue line there is the funding that's been converted, so it's dropped out of the external capital expenditure and up into the CapEx to OpEx SaaS line, and that is our external spend with vendors outside of council to deliver our sort of standard renewals and replacements of software that is going out of date and legacy software to protect council, and then any sort of improvements that are deemed within the portfolio.
Vaughan, just on that, I don't want to put you on the spot, so if you don't have it, don't worry and come back. But the personnel costs, less recoveries, what is the actual personnel costs of the unit? Do we?
Oh, so that was that is actually the personnel costs. We initially had the recoveries in there, which was...
so that's the gross amount rather than
that
the
is
net.
the gross amount.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool.
I think it's just important to, and it was on an earlier slide, but the reason why we've had to transition into this OPEX model is to do with the subscribe not own model, which is how we are purchasing services or digital services from the market. So the market completely changed its operating model from we'll come and help you build something, therefore you own it, therefore you capitalise it, to actually we will provide you a service that we don't have to upgrade, it gets upgraded automatically and all those sorts of things. So
and I think we went through that.
That's
Was
the
it last year,
accounting
Vaughan, where we
standards,
literally moved everything
Yeah.
over and just to tidy up. But it's actually a good thing because it allows us for a greater degree of control over the budget.
It does.
As opposed to just going, it's CapEx, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Have you guys got anything else on that one? And we'll go to questions from the team after. But
no, I'll just carry on with the rest of the presentation.
Yep. Thanks.
So I guess this is just doing a quick run through the key things. So I think DCE I've covered, as I was just giving you an overview of the key projects.
Sorry, just on that one.
Yep.
Go back. Can you? There were some answers come out last night to some questions. Can you just clarify for the table around the, because I guess there was we released the Lagoima, which said that the digital customer experience, which I think was perceived as just the app, was like $6 million. But the answers to the questions last night indicated to me that there was actually a lot of work that would have been happening regardless of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So can someone just talk me through that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So I guess when you look at the digital citizen experience, if I was to sort of give a simple explanation of the architecture that supports it, I have to sort of so if you look at it, the very first layer that would be is your data layer. On top of that sits your first backend system, which is called SAP S4. I'm sorry, there are some abbreviations, but I can. Then comes the integration layer, which is all the piping that talks one system to the other. And then comes the Hybris, which is the commerce platform, which is called the C4. And then on top of that comes the actual app. So the app is just one layer out of that entire architecture. So what we have sort of tried to explain is that the upgrades we had to do, the security work we had to do, that we would have had to do regardless to make sure that all the current services that we provide online are safe and secure for our citizens. What we have done with the app is we have moved from just an online services world to a self-service personalized world. So here you could go and create multiple IDs. There could be 3 Anurag Madan sitting in there trying to do different things. We would have no idea which one is the right one. So one of the things we have addressed, which is all the back-end work we had to do, is which is the one Anurag that is allowed to see all the data related to that individual. So those are things that we have had to implement from a security and privacy perspective to do that, right? So I think that all of that work and the background with security uplift, with making sure that the data integrity across our multiple systems is correct. So when you log in, you can see what business you have for rates, what business you have for animal management, what business you have for licensing, if you are involved in there, what is your water usage thing. So they are all sitting in different systems, consenting. So linking all of that work is some of the work we had to do anyway. And the personalization aspect is what we sort of enabled when we went in with DCE. I'll pause there, just making sure I'm not going too technical, but if that sort of resonated as an answer.
Does this have the ability, or will it have the ability, if someone rings the call center?
Yeah.
If I've got this and I haven't yet logged into it, although I told Anne I would last night, I haven't got to it. If I phone the call center and say, hey, my rubbish bin hasn't been picked up, does that then keep a log against your name or will it have the ability to do? So
it has done for me because I've logged in and I had reported my bin was missing. I logged in and it showed me all my tickets.
So it's going to know all your tickets and everything. Yeah.
Yep. Everything. It'll be coming as your service request.
So even if you filed them via the call center, you will see it on the dashboard.
Yes. Because they will link it to your name, and now that we've got all of that linkage safe and secure, the moment you come in, it'll show you your service request.
So it's actually pulling everything together into an avenue where people can...
I mean, there are terms used like single view of the customer, golden record. I'm not sure if you've come across them. That's precisely what we have done.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I just want to add, and this is what the intention of Digital Citizen has always been. It's to create that single golden record so that it's one citizen interacting with multiple services and it's personalised. So, I might have a dog, I own a house, I get my rates, my bins collected on XYZ date versus Councillor Fields who doesn't have a dog but actually interacts on another level for a different service. This is absolutely where the digital government is heading for New Zealand as a country. The utopia would be somewhere like Denmark or Estonia. Denmark has it across the single citizen view across local government and central government, so it's very joined. They offer 1,500 services through their application. So anything that you want to do, be it central government or local government related, is through one portal and it's the same information and everybody gets it. Australia's going to a statewide approach around there too. So they will manage the citizens within the estate. So it's not a new concept, but it helps the citizen engage on their level at their time and their place. Yeah.
And I know we've sort of talked about the so this is the experience online, and we're going to wait to see the app thing. But I mean, does this allow in time the ability to push out consultations? You know, like I'm just thinking if I've, and I know we're not there yet, and as much as I have to eat humble pie because I wanted the app done now, but I've been talked off the ledge. If we get to the point where we do have that, do we have the ability for, if we're going to consult on Aorangi Road like you were talking about, they can get a push notification?
I think the capability, which is quite foundational that we have built, has got so many use cases outside of what we're doing.
Yeah.
You could use that for giving access to people to libraries just using their ID because we'll be able to verify who they are. You can use it for consultation. You can use it for anything because you are able to verify that the individual you're interacting with is 100% who they say they are.
Yeah.
And that is the fundamental strength you need to be able to interact in the digital world.
Okay, cool. That's great. Now, I've got a heap of questions. I'll start with Aaron.
Yeah,
who's
and
smiling,
I've got a heap
I
of
think.
questions. So first up, just on the digital citizen thing, I think, this is a personal view, because I think there'll be a number of people out there that don't want to be digital citizens.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was actually an LTP or an annual plan question to the public, that we get a mandate from them that they want to be digital citizens. I got a sneaking suspicion the majority of the public don't want to be. They already, nearly everything we're offering in it, no one's ever asked me for, and I've been here about half the time of Yanni, which is a very long time. So we're solving problems that don't exist. But my question is, and it probably almost illegal, can we create digital citizens without a mandate from the public?
This is not a mandated thing for citizens anyway. I'm not a legal expert here, but I'll give you my 2 cents worth as a citizen as well. Is if I want to opt in and sign up, I can. If I don't want to, I can ring the contact center.
Right.
So there are other options for them to do it.
Good answer. And then my other one is around, and it was in the bit at the start, the whatever you call it, your statements and things, and the use of AI and things. And I look at this report and I go, how much of this was cut and pasted? Because of all the reports today, it's got the most mistakes in it. There's I don't know if everyone else read it.
I mean, that's not helpful, Aaron. So let's move to Jake.
But no, you can't read the graph because...
Look, first one, it's great to have it here, and this is a really good bit of work that's gone really well on the whole. Just from a user's perspective, because I've kind of been setting myself up while we've been talking, and half and half, and I suppose it sort of tests it. Do you need a copy of a physical rates demand in order to set up, or can you call the call centre and grab those two? The reference number.
You can do both. Yeah. Because when you ring the contact center, my understanding is again that you will be verified on the phone before you are linked to your property. Cool. But if you have a copy of your rates invoice, then that's the easiest way you can self-serve. Sure. But it's a one-time thing.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you. Just looking at page 101, which talks about improving the experiences for citizen, staff, elected members and organisations that interact with council. Which is the work stream that specifically addresses improving that experience for elected members, and also our ability sort of to interact with internal systems and other things that can help us do our job?
So I think that would be sitting under the enabling our people line, and I think that we are currently having a discussion going on in terms of looking at how the refresh or renewal or replacement of the Info Council and the entire sort of capability there. There is a discussion going on internally. So those are capabilities that can help your experience in terms of how you engage. But if there are specific systems that you think you need access to that you don't have access to today, then we just need to know what those are and we can see what we can do about them.
So you're open to some feedback around
Absolutely.
some of the gaps in the current systems?
Yeah, but bearing in mind we're the governing body, not the organisation that
I understand that.
Yeah.
My advice would be to put that up through the Secretariat, but actually more broadly, so the systems that you use are Info Council, so there's currently a process to look at how do we make the governance interaction on that system work better, and well, that's coming through from
And I think,
Helen.
and just on that, just from Aaron, I think his point was around just some of the graphs coming through are really good in the presentation, but they didn't translate entirely into the agenda. So it wasn't about the report's quality, it was just
I think we convert the moving it into PDF, so I haven't picked that up as I looked at it. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. Yeah.
Sorry, we picked that up yesterday and sent the updated information out last night.
Correct.
And it was in the presentation.
Yep.
The performance reporting and goal management actually, and the program and PMO reporting that's been supported by digital is what you see in your packs, and all of that information that is all enabled through digitally enabled systems and technology. So how that all gets reported through the organisation and then is presented to you as part of all of these reports is actually a lot of those systems, all of your usual systems around emails and everything on the council system is all I know there is some frustration around some of the cyber security controls, which we all face as governors and management, but there is good reasons for those too.
Yeah, and just more specifically around things like AI tools and other things that I know other councils are looking at, providing sort of more safe and secure systems for people to access, because obviously elected members are sometimes operating on a slightly different, have access to slightly different tools and things to staff. So just getting a bit of an understanding of what's in the pipeline of work would be good, because then we can report back on where the gaps might be for our particular roles. Thanks.
Yeah, just noting that digital isn't taking the lead on AI capability uplift in the organisation. It's actually another unit, innovation and improvement, and we've got a report tabled. We'll be tabling a report to come to you in early in the new year, financial year, that gives you a view on how that program, where that program is, and then actually some ideas around the guardrails that we've got in place.
And that a good point, Celeste, and I think, and that's really valid, because we did challenge the organisation to go, how are we going to adopt AI and use it to our advantage? So that will be
And I think I was at a GovTech forum last week. All councils and ministries are struggling with the balance between making sure that it's safe and secure versus trying to drive quick, easy efficiencies around AI capability, and we just need to as we are doing in our program, ease ourselves gently into that.
Yep. Cool. So Celeste, you're good? Great. And Nathaniel, then Tyrone, David, Kelly, and Pauline.
Yeah, on the sort of idea of being able to sort of prove that you're a resident through the app, we've had sort of discussions about things like ratepayer discounts for places like the art gallery or maybe even the stadium, that sort of thing, and also maybe third parties that might want to provide, or that perhaps as a condition of them receiving grant money, maybe they have to provide a discount for residents. Is there a way that you could have a sort of third-party verification, when doing it online? Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
So look, I mean, we don't have that capability ready to go right now, but if there is support and there is a business need for it, what the technology offers today is standard APIs that you can publish, and third parties can consume it to do all those things. Like, just to give you an example, I think driver's license validation is now available as an API that NZTA offers, and a third party can use it to verify if you've got the right license, etc., and validate who you are. So we can do those things now that we've got this capability, but it is something we will have to build. It's not ready to go.
Yeah, gotcha. And then on the AI stuff, just two things. One is do you, because there's been a lot of talk about like the carbon cost of AI. Are we already counting that in scope 3, or is that still a bit?
So I think that is also an evolving area right now. If you look at the global conversation around us that I sort of read and sort of listen into, it is certainly putting a lot of pressure right across. But the only thing I will sort of say is, given we are consuming these things from the public cloud, we will be just part of many others who will be doing it. So if the carbon issue, because of accelerated AI production, et cetera, goes up, well, we are no single entity that can change that on our own. We just need to sort of move with where the rest of the world is going and what they're doing, if I understood your question correctly.
So I guess I'm just asking if we currently count those emissions, and we don't. Is the answer right?
Oh, I see what you
No,
mean.
not yet. I think it's everybody's coming to terms with the fact that there is an environmental impact on the data centres that are produced to undertake the AI capability that everyone needs. So there is an inherent tension between we want to be faster and more efficient with AI, but there's a trade-off because there is an environmental footprint consequence. Yeah.
And the other last one, the other sort of trade-off thing I'm curious about is, because we're in a bit of there's like a big investment bubble with AI at the moment, and the only way for that to work out is if at some point it starts costing a lot more for the consumer to use those products, or at least that's one view. So do we have a sense of like the risks of, if we start incorporating, like agentic AI into our services, that will lock us into future costs? Do we think about that, or make any projections, or is there maybe industry guidelines around that?
So I think the industry guidelines on that are evolving, because there are still vendors that are trying to promote some of their capabilities. I mean, today, if I look at the digital platforms you've got, there is AI in everything. There is AI in SAP, there is AI in Info, there is AI in M365. So we just need to be which is where I think the initiative that Anne has been talking about is we are going through very methodically, trying to really understand where the true value for us sits. It is not, and I think once we've got a bit of an understanding of it, then we can look at the cost-benefit analysis of doing that, whether it is something that we should do for today and how will it work in the future. But some of the projections for the future, there is still a lot of uncertainty around it in terms of how they will evolve.
Thank you.
Can I just add, at the moment, for example, Microsoft 365 has Copilot, which is generative AI that actually can drive a lot of efficiency out of without having to have a full license, which is $50 a month currently per user, to do agentic AI. So we could tailor the kind of licensing models where we need to develop agents to narrow it down. Not everybody needs a full license, and we need to work through actually how will we apply the different kinds of licensing models across the workforce. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Nathaniel. Tyrone?
Thank you. Yeah, really good. As a former BI developer, I'm really supportive of the direction we're heading with our reporting. And just some questions on the snapshot stuff.
Yep.
And it may have been asked and answered, but I just need clarification. So the things that you've put on that page are, they're live measures that people are using in different. You've obviously just aggregated them all on a page.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that when people see them, they're time bound, because we can't tell from the snapshot, what time period people borrowed 4.9 million books in and that sort of thing. But
so I think this is the last 12 months sort of snapshot.
Yeah.
Period. Yeah.
Cool. And picking up from the conversations that we've had, we do have a level of real-time data.
Yeah.
Not all things are real-time, of course, but
near real-time.
There are things.
Yep.
And is there any thought going into, being able to have those measures just available to people all the time? And
you mean as in the public?
The public, or even just on a screen if you walk around the.
There's nothing stopping us from doing. There's nothing sensitive in there. It's just data and just telling what is being utilized. Yeah. If it is all approved through the right committees, it can be supported to be made available. Yeah.
And acknowledging that these measures aren't necessarily for governance, but there are measures that probably would help us, like in real time, help make us make decisions in real time. So is there a program to sort of think about what elected members need to be able to see to help decision making, or is that is that a conversation, or is that?
I think it's a conversation that we are open to, and if there is something of value we can provide. I don't
know what those measures might be.
But we can certainly show what we have in terms of dashboards, and you can say we want this, and that.
Yeah, so let's not.
I certainly don't want to over manage. I'm just kind
keen
of
to avoid us designing stuff here, but I think what we'll do is when this comes through in July, then let's have a conversation then around sort of like Celeste's point around the needs of what we require.
But just to reiterate, it's a really good direction.
Can I just?
And I'm just keen to keep it moving.
Sorry, make the point of the slide. Digital and digital services do not exist for digital's sake. Every one of those numbers is actually a digital transaction behind it that we've driven to make things more efficient. and then you start digging deeper into the 5,434 consents. Think about how many documents that are digital that relate to one of those consents and how they are managed, and the emails that go with all of those, or the payments that happen in relation to it. So digital doesn't exist for digital's sake. Digital exists to deliver those services.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. David?
Brilliant, thank you. Just picking up on Jake's question before around the ratepayer. But let's say there's 2, 3, 4 residents in a house. It's one address, one rate number. How do will the system be clever enough to pick up 2, 3 residents in one place?
If they are all entitled to be on that title, yes, the system recognizes that. You can have, like, for example, couple. I'll just use as an example. So me and my partner, we both will be able to see the same rates bill with different IDs because we've been able to associate with that.
Cool.
Legally.
And then if you can alert us that the rubbish bin hasn't been collected, but your partner or somebody else in the household brings another issue, will they split those as well? Or is it all under one file?
No, I think it will go by individual name for those things, for service requests, not by the property.
And then just the second question, if I can, picking up on Sam's question around maybe pushing out consultation things. Is that pretty much, and I'm heartened by your enthusiasm that it's all ready to go. It doesn't need any more investment. That's all ready to go. We could start.
Like I sort of mentioned, what I was suggesting there is the foundation work has been done. Now to make consultation work effectively in terms of what we send and how we get feedback, we will have to build that part of the functionality. But to be able to identify individuals and get their responses and collate them, the foundation work has been done.
Cool. Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
Great. Kelly, and then Pauline, then Yanni, then we're going to move it on.
Ironically, I asked my question to AI and it solved it for me, so I'm good.
Oh, fantastic.
So mine's more of an observation, looking at what page are we on? The 121. The global shortages of computer components have driven replacement device prices up by more than 40%. And so you've had the foresight to buy in advance of 2 years' worth. So we would be expecting a kind of bow wave of costs increase after 2 years?
Well, it is a little bit still uncertain. I mean, what they are, so there are two ways it could go. The shortage and scarcity of material is resolved, you know, and this is again global partnerships, what's China doing, what's happening, you know, I don't know. Just to make a light comment, what we'll do on the moon, maybe we'll start digging up there. But I guess once the shortage of that is gone, then some of these things will start, but they will not get back to where they were. That's a given, right? I mean, once the prices rise, it's very rarely you'll see they'll go back to where they were, but we can certainly see them plateauing and maybe slightly decreasing, but that's the extent of it. See, the other challenge this poses is not just the fact that they are expensive. You might not even get your laptop in time because they can't produce enough. So those were the two things, right? If they don't have enough parts, they won't be able to ship them out.
Stuff. Thank you, and good on you for your foresight.
Yanni and then Phil, and then we're done.
Yeah, thank you. I just had two questions. One was, if you take, for example, like LIMS, right, where we've spent a whole bunch of money on going from a hard copy system, which was very manually labour intensive, so understood that there would be a cost and there was storage and all sorts of things. That's transitioned to an electronic system, but the fees for getting LIMS are still quite high, and there's still a time frame, like 10 working days to get a standard LIM. Is there going to be, ever a space and time where people can actually just go on a website?
I think Anne's looking like she's going to.
Yeah, that's not a question that we can ask from a digital perspective. That's actually that sits with the unit that provides the service. Digital just enables that. So the timeframes for turning LIMS around and the fees need to go back to that. We don't dictate that.
I think your point's right though. It's like, is this going to enable more efficiency and value for ratepayers?
Because I guess
I'm sure we can take that away.
We've gone from a physical process that's quite costly to a electronic process which is more streamlined. So, and I think that's kind of the point that you've made, is that the digital doesn't exist for the sake of itself. it exists to make it easier.
Okay, what's your other question, man? Because your points, I agree with you.
Okay, cool. So the other question was, I've raised this a couple of times and I just don't have any visibility, but have we got any project underway to do a sort of emergency adverse event dashboard where like people can get information from a variety of sources in real time to kind of help understand from a single point of truth what's going on direct from the authorities?
So I know we've got some support we provide to the CDM group. That's probably all I'm aware of, because there are some other entities that are at play when it comes to emergency situations, and we do have a role to play, but we are not the sole provider, as I understand, of all the intel. I've recently also been in a conversation with one of the other GMs in terms of a specific need they have identified, and we are exploring how we can help them solve that problem from an emergency situation perspective. So again, I think our role there is to provide advice around what is possible, what is feasible, but I don't think digital as a unit is holding any mandate to sort of solve that, but we are certainly contributing to it.
And we'll be aware of.
CDM is looking at a common operating platform tool, so it's early stages around innovating what could be possible to support a civil defence emergency, noting that there's various players that are in the lead on those various events. But at the moment, the one source of truth comes out through Newsline and the comms that comes to everybody. So that's where we're at the moment.
Okay, thanks. I mean, I just want to flag that it's an area that I support us looking at what more we can do. I know you've said that Newsline is the source of truth, but from my experience, there's been times when information is out of date.
All right. Yep, cool. Point made again. So Phil, and then we're done.
Yeah, this is very short. Now, this will come very clear that I'm a drain layer, not an IT specialist. When I came in here, years ago, we had about 900 different operating systems. Is what we're doing here, are we rationalising, are we getting rid of some?
Absolutely, we are.
Okay.
Yes, and I think that's probably the transformation activities we are undertaking, and we have been doing it for a while, so it's not the first time. If you would recall, there was a conversation we had where we spoke about get-off gyms. That was a very old technology, and we got rid of it probably 18 months ago, which was the last bit with the animal management and all of that, which is now working really well. So absolutely, that is the intent, is sometimes to retire the technical debt, you have to actually consolidate.
Of course, so but
absolutely. That's absolutely part of our remit. Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay, so Phil's happy to move this. Pauline's happy to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great. Thank you for that. And good to have a good discussion on it.
Sam, is it possible to get those slides that had the errors and put on the hub separately?
I think they are.
They
are there. Yep. Okay, so then we got a couple of procedural ones, which we'll do now. First one is the audit engagement letter, which the Mayor's happy to move and Jake's happy to second. Anyone have any questions on that? All in favour? Against? That's carried. The next one is the CCO non-trading item 13. Beat, is that just going through as is? Yeah.
No, they were just going to amend slightly.
I think. Yeah, it's nothing. It's only just a technicality of appointing the director before we remove Mary. So I'm happy to move. It doesn't change anything, but I'm happy to move it. Pauline's happy to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. And the last one we'll do, and then we can have a break, is just the appointment of an elected member to CCHL, noting Victoria's a conflict. I'm happy to move that. Mark's happy to second it. And Mel's a conflict. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Well done. And the next one is the wind-up of Te Kaha, which the Mayor's happy to move. Tim's happy to second. Any questions? All in favour? Against? That's carried. Excellent. So we'll break now, then we'll come back and do the we'll do wastewater after the break. Akaroa and then Christchurch. So say come back at 20 past, give it 15 minutes. Great. Let's get underway, everybody. So and noting the Mayor's conflicted on this one, we'll jump to the quicker options. Options for quicker Akara wastewater consenting, which I'm happy to move. I don't know if I've got a seconder. Andre is happy to second it. Welcome. Can you please talk us through, what I'd quite like is, we'll take the report as read, but talk us through, I think it would be useful publicly to just understand your rationale for this process as opposed to, the Environment Court or the standard process. Can you also just address some of the things around the deputations as well? Because I guess the impression I came away with was potentially the rigour around the process, and I just want some clarity from you around how that works. So do you want to talk through it, and then can you just address those, and we'll go to questions? Yep. I've got Pauline first.
Will do, Chair. Thank you for that. First of all, to summarise what's in the report and why it's here. At the last council meeting on this topic in April, or last committee meeting on this topic in April, the committee asked for staff to report back on two things. One was to do with ways to further save costs, and the second was ways to speed up the consenting process. So this is the report on the first of those two things. The one on costs is still coming back to the committee in July, and some of the comments you heard from deputations today were about costs. Staff will be replying on that in the report back to the committee in July. So focusing on the purpose of this report, which is for the council to consider options for speeding up the consenting process. First of all, the reason why the committee asked for that in the meeting in April is because the committee is acutely conscious that this consenting process so far has taken 6 years since the council decision in 2020 that it wanted to irrigate treated wastewater to land. We're now 6 years down the track and don't have those resource consents yet. As a result of the council's or the committee's decision in April, which was to continue with seeking irrigation to land, coupled with discharge of storage exceedances into harbour, with cost savings that the committee decided on in April. It's going to take some more time to prepare those applications. And as one of the deputations said this morning, in my last report to the commissioners hearing the current resource consent applications, I said that it may take until February to lodge those amended applications. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that staff are reporting back to you in July, and that applications can't be prepared until after that. And second reason is that it simply takes some time for the technical work needed to prepare those applications. One of the deputations this morning suggested that the committee should wait until February before making a decision on fast-tracking options. If the committee's objective is to speed up this process, you would not want to wait until February to make that decision, because what you'd be seeing in February, you'd be involving yourself in detailed drafting of applications. And with respect, I don't think that's a good use of your time. Staff and consultants will be on top of that. Staff and consultants know what it is you want prepared, and will do that. That was your decision back in April. The options in the report for speeding up the process, there are only two. One is direct referral to the Environment Court, and the other one is use of the Fast Track Approvals Act process. Direct referral to the Environment Court doesn't reduce the amount of time taken as much as does the Fast Track process. Direct referral to the Environment Court, as some of the deputations said this morning, would still enable submitters to take part. So if you want to still enable that, direct referral to the Environment Court would be preferable over the fast track process. But in the fast track process, the ultimate decision making is by the panel on the basis of the expert and technical evidence that's produced by the applicant and is very rigorously examined by experts acting for other agencies involved and by the panel themselves. The panel themselves are expert. So whilst the fast track process has a reputation as being a short and sharp process, what is fast about it is the timeframes are sped up. The rigour is equal to, and I could never say more, but at least equal to the rigour that the Environment Court would bring to it and the rigour that a decision maker in a council hearing process would bring to it. It's not an easier process for an applicant. The technical evidence, the expert evidence has to stack up in exactly the same way. The fast track legislation, in my view, was set up for precisely this sort of proposal. Just looking at the words which are in the staff report about the criteria for assessing a fast track application. So the Minister, when considering the Council's request, if the Council makes one to go into the fast track process, is required to consider whether the project is an infrastructure or development project that would have significant regional or national benefits, and that referring the project into that fast track approvals process would facilitate it, enabling it to be processed in a more timely and cost effective way than under normal processes. So that reference to than under normal processes includes direct referral to the Environment Court. That is a normal process. But the fast track process is quicker and more efficient than that. Something else I'd highlight about that fast track process is the more fine-grained detail that the Minister will be turning their mind to when considering the direct referral application. They'll turn their mind to, and this is from the legislation, whether the project will deliver new regionally or nationally significant infrastructure. Well, ECAN's RPS identifies wastewater infrastructure as being significant, regionally significant infrastructure. They'll turn their minds to whether it will support primary industries, including aquaculture. Well, you heard from aquaculture industry at your last meeting back in April. The Minister will turn their mind to whether it will support climate change mitigation, including reduction or removal of greenhouse gas emissions. Well, that's an important part of the proposal that the committee decided on back in April because of the 84 hectares of planting of Indigenous vegetation. Whether it will address significant environmental issues and is consistent with local and regional planning documents. So this is, I'd submit to that this is precisely the sort of project that the fast track process exists for. Going back, sorry for taking so long, Chair, going back to a couple of comments very briefly from the deputations this morning. As you've said, it was largely in relation to the decision that the committee has already made back in April, so I'm not going to repeat that. I've already said that staff will be reporting back on costs in the July meeting. There was some concern raised about cost oversight. Well, that's what this committee is doing, and doing things like asking for that report back in July. There was concern about the technical appropriateness of the council's application. As I've said, that's going to be very rigorously examined through the fast track process. Does the committee need to know more about the content of the applications? No, you decided on the content of the applications back in April. No, that's it. Thank you.
Excellent. Hey, thank you. That's really clear and really useful. I've got Pauline and Tyrone, and then Yanni.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. Is this all going to be all a new consent, or can we use some of the consent that's already on hold?
New applications.
The whole new application.
But a huge amount of work that's gone into those existing applications will be carried through into the new one. So it's not a complete duplication. Will this be ready for a fast track, even though we don't have the detailed design and all that stuff? Or yes. But most proposals that go through the fast track process are a very long way from detailed design. The process is set up so that the projects are approved with appropriate conditions that ensure that the detailed design is going to address the impacts.
Okay, and the other question is, if this is declined by the panel and consequently the Minister, then we, on page 59, 3.4.1.2.3, then we go back to apply to either the Environment Court or go to a standard process. So there is a risk there, isn't there?
Yeah, so Councillor, that was talking about the kind of first step. So there's two applications, if you like, in the fast track process.
Yep.
First application is asking the Minister to let the project into the process.
Right.
So if that application is declined, then the council can have a look at the way it applied and possibly relodge it, or it can decide to use the direct referral process instead, or it could go back to the standard RMA process.
Just on that, because I think it's a really good point. So the only decision that the Minister is making is referring it to the scheme.
Correct.
As opposed to the outcome of the consent, because I think there's an impression that it's a decision made by ministers when it's actually a group of technical experts who actually do it. So I think what we're asking is whether the Minister will consider referring it to the scheme.
Yes.
As opposed to the Minister deciding whether we can just start going and building a wastewater one. I just think it's really it's important we clarify that, because this is not some kind of back door to get something done. This is a process which has experts and rigour around it.
Yeah. So the timeline for the Minister to allow this into the fast track process is how long, do you think?
Yeah, look, I was looking at some data on that yesterday, where someone very usefully pulled together how long it took
the
for
extensions to the plan change.
How long it took for every referral application that's been lodged so far. And of a total of 46 referral applications, the shortest time for the Minister to make a decision was, I think, 2.3 months, and the average time was 4 months. So that's why it would be the staff preference that if there is to be a committee decision to favour speeding up the consenting process, that decision be made today so that we can start drafting and put in that referral application.
So where I'm coming from is that maybe it might be a kind of a safer bet in a way to go straight to the Environment Court, because it's faster than standard, a little bit cheaper, it says in here, than fast track, and then we can push the go button more quickly.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to press the go button any more quickly. So if the referral application is lodged as soon as it's ready now, then it would be reasonable to expect that there'd be a Minister's decision on accepting or rejecting the referral application before the substantive applications are ready to be processed.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep, so that's kind of it's a buffer.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Tyrone.
Thank you. And so if it does go, the Minister does acquiesce to it going into the fast track process. So as I understand it, there is provision within the fast track process for public submissions, but it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, correct.
Is that correct?
It's possible, but it's the lack of guarantee is pretty important, because in either the direct referral process or standard RMA process, there is a requirement for notification and submissions.
And there's no provision for council to request that there's public submissions in the fast track process?
I haven't looked at that, Councillor. I'll respond to that separately if you like.
Yep, that's fine. That's fine. And even if there's a request, there's no guarantee, I suppose. But and just to reiterate, just to clarify on the back of Pauline's questions. So if this motion, the staff rec, is rejected, it falls back onto the council-led hearings process.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. unless there's a foreshadowed motion on for another option.
Correct.
Yep, thank you.
Yep. Okay, and I've got Yanni.
Thank you. Can you just clarify with me if there's an ability within the fast track process for the minister or for the applicant to suggest a even faster fast track process? My understanding is that there's an ability for the minister to get an even quicker process than just the normal fast track. Are there any additional powers that the minister has to do things quicker? And I mean, I'm reading this on a media article, so I'm not saying it's true, but that was just something that came to my attention that I thought would be good to understand.
Yeah. I don't think there is, Councillor, but I'd need to double check that. The way that the applications are progressing under the fast track process at the moment, there is incredible time pressure on the panels to stick to the maximum time that the legislation allows them. So when applications are taking time to go through that process, it's usually because the applicants are slowing things down. The applicants are wanting to slow things down a little bit from the statutory timeframe in order to make sure that they're getting a complete information in front of the panel. So going to the minister to try and speed things up anymore probably isn't in the best interest of the process anyway.
Right. So just I mean, maybe it's clear if I just say what was said. In the amendments that were made, the changes, this included changes to if a minister decides it is a priority, foregoing assessment by a panel. It also gives the ministers the power to tell the Environment Protection Authority how to do its job assessing applications, and reduces the number of people the panel has to consult with if local authorities hold relevant information. So the amendments that were made to the Fast Track Act, do we know if those have gone through? I mean, I think this was in 2025, so...
Yeah, there were amendments made to the Fast Track Act earlier this year. What you were just reading from, though, wasn't, from the way it was written, it wasn't an official council or central government webpage. It was someone's commentary.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound correct to me, but I'll reply to you on that separately if you like.
Yeah, thank you. And just
one.
Yeah, just to get, I guess, a bit of clarity. Like the report's really. I really appreciate the boxes in the report that talks through the difference between the fast track and the direct referral.
Okay, what's your question?
So effectively, just in terms of the normal resource consent process, which we heard submitters say, is there any difference in terms of the cost to the project? Like, what would be the difference in cost to the project? I'm just looking at the financial implications, the page 163. I'm just wondering if you can go through, just to kind of put it side to side around the...
I'm not clear on what you're asking that isn't in there, because I thought, I'm just finding the page. We talked about...
Paragraph 4.19.
Yeah.
Under analysis criteria, the costs, including some of the spending to date.
But 4.9 as well is also very clear. That's where I was working from.
So,
in essence, the continued delays add more capital costs to the project. Yeah.
So 7.4. Yeah, I was just trying to see what down in that bottom of that graph on page 163 or 164, it's got cost to project. And I was just trying to understand what the difference is between the three options rather than just the two in terms of that cost to project figure.
Is that the figures in paragraph 4.19, Council?
I think it's different. So it's the CapEx financial implications under section 5, where it's the bottom line. Bottom 163, top of 164.
I'll take that one. So in terms of the processing fees, there is a minor saving in the current process. It's probably $200,000 cheaper. However, it's the inflation. So on page 164, there's an inflation figure around the timelines versus what we'd expect with the ECAM process, and it's that 2.4% per year inflation on $160 million, and compounded interest just pushes up the cost. So that line on inflation impact, that's the saving, as it were, if you went fast track or direct to the Environment Court.
Great, I've got.
Okay, so just looking at 4.9, is it about $12 million extra? Was it 4.9? Yeah. So you're saying 160 to 172 if we just went through the standard process. So that table, if we did have the regular process,
yeah,
cost of project, you'd be looking at 12 million difference compared to the other two.
Yeah.
Well,
okay, thanks.
And it references also the issues we've had previously and the delays that have led to the increase now. So,
and there is a built-in assumption there around the duration. If ECAN were able to do it much faster for reasons beyond our control, then yes, that number would reduce.
Yeah. Okay, Aaron, and then we're going to move on.
Yeah, so just, and it may have already been covered off earlier in an earlier meeting, but has the route that we're taking and the project that we're doing, has that been peer reviewed by someone else in the industry that may do it a completely different way, but we have done that? Or have we gone with our plan and just made adjustments
do you
the whole way
mean,
through?
Aaron, do you mean the process or the plant?
Not the plant, not the process. The process
Yep.
is.
So we've asked for some info to come back in
I
July.
thought we had.
But that'll come back when we finalise the scope. Yeah, this is just going, do we want to use the process to try and speed up the project? Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
But your information will come back in July.
Okay.
Yep, definitely.
Right.
No, good
It
call.
just seems back to front, but
I think it's just the timing of elections and trying to get to the minister.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the eye-watering cost.
Which will not be helped if we keep delaying it. Okay, cool. So, does anyone want to... So it's moved and seconded. Does anyone want to debate it? Tyrone? Yep.
I mean, you moved it, Sam, didn't you? You don't want to debate? No, that's good.
I'll wrap up.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's fine. Look, I mean, obviously, we've been through quite a lot to get to this stage, and there's a wee way to go. I am just signalling that I can't, in good conscience, support the staff rec as it currently stands. So I will be voting against. And the reasons for that are, I mean, we heard the Friends of Banks Peninsula come in today and talk about, the effort and the work that they've had to put into to address and to analyse and to really push for a high quality wastewater scheme for Akaroa Harbour that is fit for purpose and is good for the environment and does the things that it needs to do. I think that they should be continue to be able to have that right to be able to push back against the scheme and to be able to continue to analyse and because they've always done it in good faith, they've brought a lot to the table, being able to critically analyse the scheme and actually found technical deficiencies with it from time to time and being able to articulate that in a submission and hearings forum, and I think that they should be able to continue to be able to do that. So for those reasons, I'm not in support of fast tracking it because I believe that it will not enable the public to be able to have their say on the scheme.
Sorry, Yanni. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I was concerned ahead of coming into the meeting today around the proposed fast track process. Nothing I've heard from the community today has alleviated any of my fears or concerns that this process is not the correct one. I think this will give extraordinary power to people outside of the people that are most impacted by this, the local community. I take on board the comments that were made from the deputations around how much work and effort and resources that the community have used to engage in the process to date. And I think it would be inherently unfair if they were shut out of the next step of this process. So in good faith and in good conscience, I can't support the fast track process. I recognise the need to do this. People want to get on and get this thing sorted. But I don't think using a process that shuts the community out going forward is the right way to go, given the history of this project. I would make the point that I do think there is an ability for the minister to make a priority project an even greater priority within the fast track process. That would mean that the panel may not be convened. That's what I've read in the legislation. So I think if we were going to do a quicker process around this, my preference would be the direct referral to the Environment Court. That would enable the community to participate if that was an option that we wanted to look at to do it quicker. But at this point, I'm not supporting the fast track. I just don't feel that that is the right way to go.
Yeah, look, in light of the deputations we've received, and I know that we have to expedite this as quickly as we can in the light of inflation costs and complications and things like that. We need to get this done. It's been around for years. We want to get it cracking. And I'm sure everyone wants to get it cracking, but I'm reluctant to lock the community, particularly this group that came today, out of the process. And it's not about them objecting or making it difficult. They're a very well informed group, and as they say, they want to feed in a proactive way as well. So, and the Environment Court process is not, the advantages are it is faster than status quo, cost less than fast track most likely, but the public will have an opportunity to contribute to the applications, and there's no appeal. You can't appeal in the Environment Court. So I don't think it's going to be a hell of a lot slower than fast tracking, quite personally. So in light of that, I'd like to foreshadow, if the recommendation fails, the direct to the Environment Court option, please. I'll need a second.
No, I mean, I can just wrap it up. I think I completely understand it's a challenging situation for people. I guess my read was, and I think it's really useful, the deputations came in this morning, but largely I think what the deputations were referring to were the issues we dealt with last month when we agreed on the scheme. So I'm not sure that, what we would be, slowing down and essentially loading more cost onto the Christchurch ratepayers. Bear in mind, Christchurch are paying for this in Akaroa. Make no mistake about that. This is heavily subsidised by the people of Christchurch. And the more we delay this, the more it will cost the people of Christchurch. And I think, I hope that through the process, and I think Brent alluded to it, there is ability for community input should the ministers consider it. And I think, as they refer it, or the panel, as the panel consider it, maybe they will do that, maybe they won't, but ultimately, I think we have an obligation to all ratepayers in Christchurch. We're making a significant investment into Akaroa that, quite frankly, other parts of the community are not getting, because we have to, and we just need to finally get on and do this. The minister is only making the decision to refer it to the panel, and I think the points that the staff have made around the rigour of the expert and technical advice reassures me. I think sometimes the impression has been that this is a fast and loose type process, but it's not. It's effectively just trying to work through a process in a decent time frame to mitigate that inflationary pressure that we've constantly seen. I mean, this project has continued to escalate in costs, and I think there's always going to be differing views on it. But in the end, council, like we said yesterday, are elected to make some decisions, and all we're effectively saying is, can the minister consider referring this to the technical panel for a process with rigour? Not simply to sign it off on his desk. And I just hope that people don't have the impression that somehow the minister signs this off, because it's not. It's just considering it to expert people that will get the right outcome as well. As to say community haven't had input, I think is relatively unfair. We've consulted on this extensively. We've had processes around this extensively, and the feedback, has come back basically the same every time. Which is ideally, some will want to progress it really quickly, some will want to slow it down and relitigate options. I thought last month we actually landed on a good place, which was to take into account some of the feedback from the deputations around extending the overflow pipe, which I'm sure will come back in the design work next month. But this is just a process that I hope we can get on with today. So, we'll use votendo, and we'll just note there's a foreshadowed motion should this fail. Yep. Voting is open. Okay, so that's carried. Thank you. Now, can we get up Gary and Gary and Brent? You doing it? Or yep, great. Come on up. Oh, and Tim, come on up. That was good.
Hi everybody. I'll take the report as read. I just want to add one thing. 4.2.1, when we talk about the community board, next month there will be 3 of us presenting at the board, the project manager as well, just to give a more fuller picture of what's going on. But I'll take it as read. I accept there'll be some questions.
Great. And can you just talk me through, just to preempt questions, the timeline stuff that you've put up on the screen?
Okay, so the timeframes originally put to the committee back in early April were looking at fast tracking to get much of the aerators operating with diesel generation, and then also to take into account the amount of time that it would take to get some permanent power supply on site. So I've put them side by side there for information. As you can see on the left-hand side, the aerators to be installed at the start of pond 2A and 2B, and they're going to provide about bit over 80% of the kilowatts of energy required for the project, and they'll be run with the diesel generators. And at this stage, we're tracking towards 19th of June that will be operational. The installation of the remaining aerators to enable the circulation or improve circulation around the oxidation ponds. That will take a little longer, and we're targeting the mid to end of August that we'll be commissioning those under the permanent power supply.
Hey, that's really useful. And I think what we do is, going forward at the next one of these, let's have this here and just note, hopefully there won't be, or hopefully we can say it's been installed, but just have any changes that come up, and I think that'll allay some of the questions too. Great. Does anyone have any questions? I'm happy to move this, by the way, and Yanni looks like he's happy to second it, but has a question. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Is it possible as part of these future updates just to get some data on the number of exceedances of the 0.03 health guidance? So,
Good question.
Yeah.
Just stop there and see if Gary's...
Yes, yep, we'll be able to do that. I mean, there's been graphs in reports before, and there's graphs that come in the updates. But for this meeting, we can bring that for the month previous, or how far back would you like to go, Councillor?
Yeah, I guess I was just trying to get a sense of how we can kind of measure what's happening currently, and then make sure that we can kind of see what, at a governance level, what's happening. Because there were some comments that have been made that since we made the decision, the odour hasn't been bad. But my reading of the graphs, actually, there's been a number of times where the odour has been well in excess of what the health guidance.
So maybe what we do is, Gary, do you want to just take it away and have a think about the best way to present it to us?
Sure.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Yanni.
And then can you just give us a sense of the psychosocial response and recovery? I know today's not the day to get briefed on it, but can you give us a sense of what work has been happening in that space, and particularly with health? Because I think, that's an important aspect that we're still not getting a lot of details and a lot of information on, that people are still concerned, and people are still being impacted by it. Thank you.
So I was expecting this question, so I have some notes. On the 12th of June, the health will record a new video. So we had a video previously around health concerns and things that people can do. So trying to tie a date down has been hard, but the 12th of June. Also on the 12th of June, you'll be aware, Councillor, that there's been one member of the community been doing a lot of work around health. So we've arranged for a meeting with them, with council staff, ECAN staff and health staff on the same day to try and sort out some of the questions and clarifications that he's after. In terms of, I've got the wrong bit of paper, no I haven't. So in terms of that, we've been, we're 2 weeks through a drop-in trial at Bromley. The first 2 weeks has been relatively quiet. I'm not sure what I expect for the next 2 weeks, but out of that, we've been asking questions from everyone who's come in. And it's brought up some interesting things around noise as well as everything. From a education viewpoint, there hasn't been anything that has come up that education's raised around, schools have raised or ELCs have raised of a concern. We have a community meeting on the 17th of June at He Wakatapu at night, which the Community Board has an invite, has already received an invite to, for an update on the project itself, which will give an opportunity for some of the other feedback as well. But generally, the feedback I've had from community is that they just want this plant fixed. The health stuff is annoying, absolutely. I'm hoping on the 12th of June we'll have some answers to that.
Cool, thank you.
And sorry, just a final question from me. Is there any signal of any risk around the delivery of the activated sludge with the Middle East conflict? Like we've obviously heard earlier today at F&P around some projects are now identifying risks.
It's not actually a matter for this paper, unless you want to, if there's anything you want to add, Tim, but we've had the capital program today and nothing's been flagged. So, Brent's here. Yep.
Councillors, there's monthly governance meetings out there which I attend, and there's been no risk signalled at this point. All the major pipe work had already arrived. They'd ordered that early. So as soon as we know if there are any perceived delays, we'll let you know.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. I've got Celeste, and then we'll move on.
Thank you. This timeline's really good. It's really helpful. Appreciate it. And thank you for coming along. And just pick up on Yanni's point, as a second slide, do you think we could have something that, sorry, somehow I've lost my voice, talks about the sort of corresponding data that we have? So you've got the graphs around the hydrogen peroxide, but also reports to ECAN. Is that something that we can just have a visual kind of slide on so we can see where we're tracking with the installation of things and also what's happening in the community? Because I feel like the anecdotal stuff is sometimes unhelpful when we say there's no issues, but actually, you know, we need to know what's actually being reported and what we can see. So having those two things side by side would be helpful.
So in terms of the Smell It app, is that the information you're after?
Smell It app and anything else.
Sure.
Anything else you think would be helpful? It doesn't need to be hugely comprehensive, but just some more information on that.
Yep. You can do that.
All right, so that's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great, thank you both very much. Right, we will go into PX now, which Victoria will move, and Phil's happy to second. All in favour? Against? That's carried. So we'll just wait a moment.